Captain Jake Morrison walked through the long metal hallways of the biggest space station he had ever seen. The walls stretched up so high that he could barely see the ceiling. Lights from 1,000 different worlds lit up the path ahead of him. This was the Galactic Council Station, floating in space near the bright star called Centauri Prime. Jake wore his best blue uniform with gold buttons that caught the light. Behind him walked Commander Lisa Hayes and Dr. Karen Blake. All 3 humans looked small next to the giant aliens they passed in the hallways. Some aliens were as tall as trees. Others looked like walking rocks or floating clouds of gas. A few had so many arms that Jake lost count. They were here to stop a war. 2 big groups of aliens had been fighting for months. The Zephyrian Empire and the Nexus Alliance both wanted to control the same parts of space. Their ships had been shooting at each other across dozens of star systems. Millions of people were already dead. Jake and his team walked into the main meeting room. It was so big that it could hold a small city. Hundreds of different alien species sat in rows that went up and up like a mountain made of seats. The air buzzed with the sound of machines that turned alien words into human words and human words into alien words. At the front of the room was a small platform with a microphone. Jake walked up to it and looked out at all the aliens staring down at him. Some had eyes like diamonds. Others had no eyes at all but seemed to watch him anyway. A few had too many eyes to count. Jake cleared his throat and began to speak. His voice carried through the huge room thanks to the sound system built into the walls. Hello, everyone. My name is Captain Jake Morrison. I speak for all humans today. We have come here not to fight anyone, but to help make peace. We know that the Zephyrian Empire and the Nexus Alliance have been at war. We want to help you find a way to stop the fighting. A sound like breaking glass filled the room. It came from a tall alien made of what looked like living crystal. The creature was twice as tall as Jake and had sharp edges all over its body. Light passed through it and came out in rainbow colors. I am Krextal, speaker for the Zephyrian Empire, the crystal being said. Its voice sounded like wind blowing through a cave full of chimes. Why should we listen to babies? Humans have only been flying in space for 200 years. We have been fighting wars since before your son was born. Commander Lisa Hayes stepped forward. She was shorter than Jake, but her voice was strong and clear. Maybe that is why you need our help. We see things with fresh eyes. We have studied both your peoples. There are ways to make peace that do not need anyone to die. Another alien spoke up. This one looked like a giant snake with 5 heads. Each head was a different color and they all talked at the same time, making a sound like many people singing together. We are Vothka of the Nexus Alliance. All 5 heads said together. We have watched humans since you first left your world. You carry weapons that can break moons in half. You talk about peace, but you are warriors dressed up as friends. Jake felt his jaw get tight, but he kept his voice calm. Yes, we can fight. We have had many wars on our world. That is exactly why we know how much fighting costs. We are not here to threaten anyone. We are giving you a choice. Let us help you make peace or face a war that will burn up half the galaxy. Jake paused and looked around the room. Every alien was listening now. The room was so quiet that he could hear his own heartbeat. But know this, Jake continued. His voice got harder like steel. If this war comes to human space, if innocent human people die because you are too proud to accept help, you will learn why other species fear us among the stars. The room exploded with noise. Aliens were shouting in languages that the translation machines could not keep up with. Some were angry. Others seemed scared. A few looked curious about what Jake meant. Dr. Karen Blake touched a small device on her wrist. Suddenly, pictures appeared in the air above the room. They showed scenes from human history. Ancient armies fighting with swords and shields, ships firing cannons at each other on Earth's oceans, planes dropping bombs during the Great Wars, rockets flying between planets during the space conflicts. But then the pictures changed. They showed humans rebuilding cities after wars. They showed former enemies shaking hands and working together. They showed humans helping other species solve their problems without fighting. We do not threaten people for fun, Karen said. Her voice was soft, but everyone could hear her clearly. "We show you this because we want you to understand. Humans do not want war, but we will not let our people suffer because of your pride. Choose carefully." The crystal alien Krextal made that breaking glass sound again. "Are you saying you will attack us if we do not do what you want?" Jake shook his head. "We are saying we will protect ourselves. If you bring your war to us, we will end it. Quickly. Finally. In a way that makes sure it never happens again." An alien that looked like a walking tree with silver bark spoke up. "What makes you think your small species can threaten the great powers of the galaxy?" Lisa Hayes smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "Because we have been getting ready for this day since we first met other species. Every human world has defenses you cannot imagine. Every human ship carries weapons that break the laws of physics as you know them. We hope we never have to use them." "But we will," Jake added. "Make no mistake about that. We will." Dr. Blake showed more pictures. These ones showed human factories building strange machines. Human scientists working on projects that seemed impossible. Human soldiers training with equipment that looked like it came from dreams. "For 50 years, while we have been helping the galaxy make peace, we have also been preparing for war," she explained. "Not because we want to fight, but because we learned long ago that the best way to keep peace is to be ready to win any war that someone forces on you." The snake alien Vothka's 5 heads whispered to each other before speaking together again. "You are saying that humans have been hiding their true power?" Jake nodded. "We have been showing you our wisdom and our kindness. Our strength has always been there, but we hoped you would never need to see it." An alien that looked like a floating cloud of sparkling dust drifted forward. "And if we refuse your help? If we continue our war without involving human space? Then you will destroy each other and we will remain safe behind our defenses," Jake said simply. "But millions more will die. Entire worlds will be burned to ash. Children who have not yet been born will grow up in a galaxy torn apart by endless war." Jake looked around the room one more time. "We are offering you the chance to avoid that future. But the choice is yours. Accept our help and find peace, or reject it and face the consequences." The 3 humans turned and walked toward the exit. Their footsteps echoed in the sudden silence that filled the giant room. Behind them, hundreds of aliens sat in shock, trying to understand what they had just heard. As they reached the door, Jake stopped and looked back. "You have 1 week to decide," he called out. "After that, humanity will assume you have made your choice." The door closed behind them with a soft hiss, leaving the Galactic Council to debate the future of the galaxy. 3 months had passed since the humans left the Galactic Council with their warning. Admiral Ben Carter stood on the bridge of his ship, the UCS Defiance, watching the stars through the big window in front of him. The ship was huge, almost like a flying city made of metal and lights. It was the most powerful warship humans had ever built. Ben had gray hair and wrinkles around his eyes from years of staring at star maps and battle screens. He wore a dark blue uniform with silver stars on his shoulders. Next to him stood Colonel Ryan Mitchell, a younger man with short brown hair and serious eyes. Ryan was reading reports on a glowing screen. "The war is getting worse," Ryan said, not looking up from his screen. "The Zephyrians and the Nexus Alliance are fighting in 12 different star systems now. They are using bigger and bigger weapons. Whole planets are being turned into battlefields." Ben nodded sadly. "Just like we warned them would happen." "How many people have died so far?" "At least 50 million, Ryan answered. "And that number goes up every day." The bridge around them was full of people working at different stations. Lights blinked on and off as information flowed between the ship's computers. The air hummed with quiet conversation and the soft beeping of machines. Everyone knew they were watching a disaster happen in slow motion. Suddenly, a young woman at the communication station turned around quickly. Her name was Amy Rodriguez, and she had been working without sleep for 2 days, listening to radio signals from across the galaxy. "Admiral," Amy called out, her voice worried. "We are getting emergency signals from the Kepler colony. Multiple unknown ships are flying toward their star system." Ben's face became hard like stone. Kepler Colony was home to more than 2 million humans. Most of them were families of scientists and people who worked to make new planets safe for humans to live on. They had no weapons and no way to defend themselves. "Show me," Ben ordered. The big screen at the front of the bridge lit up with a map of space around the Kepler system. Red dots showed enemy ships moving toward the blue dot that marked the human colony. Ben counted them carefully. 12 heavy battleships and 1 giant dreadnought, Ryan said, reading the numbers from his screen. "Those are Zephyrian ships. They are not answering our radio calls." Captain Nicole Webb appeared on another screen. She was commanding a smaller human ship called the UCS Vigilant that was already near Kepler Colony. Nicole had blonde hair tied back in a tight knot, and her green eyes showed worry and anger. "Admiral," Nicole said, "the Zephyrians are demanding that the colony surrender. They want our terraforming technology. They say they need it for their war. If the colonists refuse, they will attack." Ben felt a cold anger growing in his chest. Terraforming technology was how humans turned dead planets into places where people could live and grow food. It had taken hundreds of years to develop. The Zephyrians wanted to steal it to help them win their war. "Put me through to the Zephyrian commander," Ben said in a voice that could cut steel. The screen changed to show an alien made of living crystal. Light moved through its body in strange patterns. This was War Commander Thex Null, one of the most dangerous military leaders in the Zephyrian Empire. His voice sounded like metal scraping against glass. "Human Admiral," the crystal being said, "I am War Commander Thex Null. Your colony will give us your terraforming technology, or we will take it by force. This is not a request. This is a command." Ben stared at the alien without blinking. When he spoke, his voice was calm, but everyone on the bridge could hear the deadly promise underneath it. "War Commander, you have 30 minutes to leave human space. This is your only warning." The crystal alien made a sound like breaking glass. Ben realized it was laughing. "You're one ship against my entire fleet? Your species thinks too highly of itself, human." "You are making a terrible mistake," Ben said slowly. "We warned your people 3 months ago in front of the entire Galactic Council. You chose not to listen." The alien kept laughing as the communication ended. Ben turned to face his crew. Every person on the bridge was looking at him, waiting for orders. The air felt heavy with tension. "All stations prepare for battle," Ben announced. His voice carried to every part of the ship through the communication system. "Amy, send a priority alpha message to Fleet Command. Tell them the line has been crossed. Begin Protocol 7. Lieutenant Commander Steve Parker looked up from the weapons station. He was a young man with red hair and freckles, but his hands were steady as he prepared the ship's weapons for fighting. "Sir," Steve said, "even with Captain Webb's ship helping us, we are badly outnumbered. 13 enemy ships against our 2 ships." Ben smiled, but there was no warmth in his expression. It was the smile of a predator that had been waiting patiently for its prey to make a mistake. "Mr. Parker, they are about to learn why humanity does not make threats we cannot keep. The help is already on the way." Across human space, communication arrays that had been silent for decades suddenly came to life. Secret messages flowed between hidden military bases and ships that most humans did not even know existed. Protocol 7 was not just a battle plan. It was the activation of humanity's true military power. On distant worlds, underground factories opened their doors for the first time in 50 years. Weapons that existed only in the nightmares of enemy planners were loaded onto ships that could bend space and time. Soldiers who had trained their entire lives for this moment put on armor that made them faster and stronger than any alien warrior. The UCS Defiance began moving toward the Kepler system. Its engines glowed brighter than small suns as it accelerated through space. But Ben knew his ship was just the tip of a spear that was about to pierce the heart of the Zephyrian fleet. "How long until we reach the enemy?" Ben asked. 45 minutes at maximum speed," answered the navigation officer. "Sir," Ryan said quietly, "the Zephyrians have no idea what is about to hit them, do they?" Ben shook his head. "For 50 years we have shown the galaxy our diplomats and our peacekeepers. We have hidden our warriors and our weapons. The aliens, think they know humanity, but they have only seen the face we chose to show them. Amy turned around again from her station. Admiral, I am picking up new signals. Multiple human ships are dropping out of faster-than-light travel near Kepler Colony. Ben's smile became real for the first time that day. How many ships? Amy's eyes grew wide as she read her instruments. Sir, I count over 200 human warships. They just appeared out of nowhere. The Zephyrian fleet is completely surrounded. On the screen, the tactical display showed a cloud of blue dots surrounding the red enemy ships. The Zephyrians, who had been confident just minutes before, were now trapped with no way to escape. Open a channel to all human ships, Ben ordered. When the communication was ready, Ben spoke to the largest human fleet ever assembled in one place. His words would be remembered by historians for thousands of years. This is Admiral Carter to all units. Today, the galaxy learns the price of threatening human civilians. Today, we show them why our warnings are not empty words. All ships, you, are authorized to engage the enemy. Show them no mercy, for they would have shown none to our people. The Kepler system was about to become a graveyard, and the galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon had never been their technology, or their ships, it had been their patience. The battle for Kepler Colony lasted exactly 3 hours and 17 minutes. When it ended, the star system looked like a graveyard filled with broken metal and dying stars. Admiral Ben Carter stood in the same place on the bridge of the UCS, Defiance. But everything around him had changed. Through the big window, he could see pieces of destroyed Zephyrian ships floating in space like dark clouds. Some pieces were as big as buildings. Others were so small they looked like dust in the starlight. His crew worked quietly around him. No one was celebrating. No one was cheering. They had won a great victory, but they all knew the cost of what had happened. 40,000 Zephyrian soldiers were dead. Their ships had been turned into scrap metal in less time than it took to eat lunch. Colonel Ryan Mitchell walked up to Ben carrying a tablet full of numbers and reports. His face was serious and tired. Fighting a battle was hard work, even when you won easily. Report, Ben said without looking away from the window. Ryan read from his tablet. Zephyrian losses. 11 heavy battleships completely destroyed. 1 giant dreadnought disabled and surrendered. We estimate about 40,000 enemy casualties. Our losses: 2 destroyers with damaged hulls, 37 crew members wounded, 4 killed in action. Ben closed his eyes for a moment. 4 humans had died today. 4 people with families and friends and dreams for the future. Their names were already being sent to Earth so their loved ones could be told. In war, even victory came with a price. Captain, Nicole Webb appeared on the communication screen. Her ship, the UCS Vigilant, had fought bravely during the battle. Her uniform was dirty and torn, and there was a bandage on her left arm, but she stood straight and proud. Admiral, Nicole said, the surviving Zephyrians want to talk to you. Their war commander Thexnal died when his ship exploded. His second, in command Subcommander Lexvar, is asking for surrender terms. Ben nodded slowly. Even in war, there were rules about how to treat prisoners and survivors. Humans had learned long ago that how you won a battle was just as important as winning it. Put him through, Ben ordered. The screen changed to show a Zephyrian officer. Like all his kind, he was made of living crystal, but his usual bright glow was dim and flickering. Ben could see that the alien was in shock. His people had thought they were attacking weak humans who could not fight back. Instead, they had found themselves facing a military force beyond their nightmares. Human Admiral, the crystal being said, his voice shaking like glass in an earthquake. I am Sub-Commander Lexvar. We did not understand. Your fleet appeared from empty space like ghosts, ships that bend reality itself, weapons that our strongest shields could not stop. How is this possible? Dr. Helen Murphy stepped forward from her station at the back of the bridge. She was humanity's expert on alien technology and had spent years studying how different species built their weapons and ships. Her gray hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her brown eyes were kind but serious. Sub-Commander, she said gently, humanity has spent the last 100 years preparing for the possibility that peace might fail. Every human world, every colony, every outpost is protected by technology that most species think is impossible. We call it the Aegis Protocol. The Zephyrian's crystal eyes focused on her with confusion and fear. Your entire species. You were all ready for war. We were ready to end war, Ben corrected, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. Sub-Commander, for 50 years humanity has been the galaxy's mediator. We have prevented 17 major wars and countless smaller fights. We have saved billions of lives by talking instead of shooting. But we have also been preparing for the day when someone would test our resolve. Ben walked closer to the screen so the alien could see his face clearly. We hoped this day would never come. We prayed that the galaxy would choose wisdom over violence, but we were not naive enough to believe it would always make that choice. The Zephyrian's form flickered with what Ben recognized as grief and shock. Your people, you have been hiding your true power all this time? Dr. Murphy nodded. Every human diplomat who negotiated peace treaties was backed by fleets like this one. Every human mediator who stopped wars had access to weapons that could end civilizations. We never had to use them because no one was foolish enough to threaten us directly. Until today, Ben added coldly. Captain Danny Foster appeared on another screen. He commanded the UCS Retribution, one of the most advanced ships in the human fleet. Behind him, Ben could see his crew working to coordinate rescue operations for Zephyrian survivors floating in escape pods. Admiral, Danny said, we are receiving surrender requests from Nexus Alliance forces throughout this sector of space. Word of what happened here is spreading faster than light. Every alien military in the galaxy is hearing about this battle. Ben was not surprised. News of military defeats traveled quickly, especially when they were as complete as this one. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity was not the weak young species they had believed. Sub-Commander Lexvar, Ben said, turning. Back to the Zephyrian officer. You will transmit the following message to your empire. Listen carefully because I will only say this once. The crystal being straightened up as much as his injured form would allow. Ben could see that despite his fear, the alien still had his military pride. Humanity is withdrawing its offer of mediation, Ben began. His words were calm, but they hit like hammer blows. We are implementing a complete quarantine around all human space. Any ship, any fleet, any military force that approaches our territory with hostile intent will be destroyed without warning or negotiation. Ben paused to let his words sink in before continuing. The galaxy can tear itself apart if it chooses to do so. You can fight your wars until every star goes dark and every world becomes ash, but you will not drag humanity down with you. The Zephyrian officer's glow flickered even more dimly. Admiral, surely there must be some way to repair the damage that has been done. The Empire regrets getting caught, Ben interrupted. The Empire regrets losing a fleet. The Empire regrets discovering that humans are not as weak as you thought. But the Empire does not regret trying to steal from us or threatening to kill 2 million innocent people. Dr. Murphy activated her holographic display, showing images from across the galaxy. Dozens of different wars were raging on hundreds of worlds. The fighting that had started between the Zephyrians and the Nexus Alliance had spread like a disease, infecting every corner of civilized space. Look at what your pride has cost, she said sadly. While you were testing humanity's resolve, your war has grown beyond all control. 7 different species are facing extinction. Billions of innocent people are dying because their leaders chose conquest over cooperation. Sub-Commander Lexvar looked at the images with growing horror. His people had started this conflict to gain territory and resources. Instead, they had unleashed a galactic catastrophe that was consuming everything in its path. Sub-Commander, Ben said, his voice becoming slightly gentler, there is still time for your people to make better choices. But those choices will be made without human help or human protection. We tried to save the galaxy from itself. The galaxy chose to ignore our warnings. The communication ended, leaving the bridge in thoughtful silence. Through the windows, the rescue operations continued, as human ships pulled Zephyrian survivors from the wreckage of their fleet. Admiral, Ryan said quietly, The galaxy is about to learn a hard lesson. Ben nodded, watching as a human medical ship docked with a damaged Zephyrian escape pod. When humans say, "Don't make us angry," it was never a threat, Ryan. It was a kindness. We were trying to warn them, not to force us to show them what we are really capable of. He turned away from the window and walked toward his command chair. Now they know, and they will have to live with that knowledge while their galaxy burns around them. 2 weeks after the battle at Kepler Colony, the Galactic Council met in emergency session. The great meeting hall that had once been filled with the proud voices of hundreds of species was now mostly empty and quiet. Many species had stopped sending representatives. Others were too busy fighting wars to attend meetings about peace. Ambassador Elena Vasquez sat at a simple metal table in the center of the hall. She wore a plain black suit instead of the fancy diplomatic robes that ambassadors usually wore. Behind her sat General Marcus Stone and Dr. Patricia Green. The three humans looked small and alone in the huge, empty space, but everyone in the room was watching them with careful attention. Elena had brown hair with gray streaks and tired eyes that had seen too much sadness in recent weeks. She had been humanity's voice to the galaxy for 15 years, working to prevent wars and solve problems with words instead of weapons. Now she was here to announce that humanity was done trying to save a galaxy that did not want to be saved. The Nexus Alliance's Supreme Speaker, Yoth Kalen, broke the heavy silence that filled the hall. All 7 of her snakeheads spoke together, but her voice that had once commanded respect now sounded worried and uncertain. Ambassador Vasquez, the 7 heads said as one. The Alliance formally requests clarification of humanity's current position regarding galactic affairs. Elena stood up slowly. Her movements were careful and controlled, like someone carrying something very heavy and dangerous. When she spoke, her voice was clear and strong, but there was sadness underneath it. The human position is simple, Supreme Speaker. For the past century, we have served as mediators, peacekeepers, and diplomatic bridges between species. We have prevented countless conflicts, negotiated hundreds of peace treaties, and sacrificed human lives in the service of galactic peace. She paused and looked around the mostly empty hall, where once 300 species had gathered in proud display. Now perhaps 50 representatives sat scattered across the vast space like survivors of a shipwreck. That service has ended, Elena said firmly. The hall erupted in whispers and worried conversations. Aliens spoke to each other in dozens of different languages, their voices mixing together into a sound like wind blowing through broken glass. The translation machine struggled to keep up with all the different words and emotions. The Altarian Confederation's representative spoke up. Zorth Prime was a floating cloud of sparkling crystal dust that glowed with soft blue light. When it communicated, its thoughts went directly into the translation system without needing words. Ambassador, surely humanity does not intend to abandon its responsibilities to the galactic community? The floating crystal asked. General Stone stood up from his chair. He was an older man with scars on his face and hands from decades of military service. His gray uniform was covered with medals from battles and peacekeeping missions across the galaxy. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone who had seen war and knew its true cost. With respect, Zorth Prime, those were not responsibilities. They were choices. Choices we made because we believed in the possibility of a peaceful galaxy. That belief has been proven wrong. Dr. Green activated her portable computer, and holographic images appeared in the air above the table. The images showed real-time data from across the galaxy, updated every few minutes by human intelligence networks that most aliens did not even know existed. Since the Kepler incident, she said, reading from the flowing data, 43 separate conflicts have begun or gotten worse. 7 civilian populations have been threatened with complete destruction. The hegemony of Keth has begun strip mining planets that still have people living on them. The galaxy has decided that might makes right. A new voice spoke from the Zephyrian delegation. Speaker Quintal had replaced the dead war commander Thexnal as the Empire's representative. Like all Zephyrians, she was made of living crystal, but her light was dim and nervous. The Empire was still in shock from losing an entire fleet to the humans. Ambassador, Quintal said, her crystal voice cracking with emotion. The Empire deeply regrets the actions of War Commander Thex Nal. We seek to make amends for what happened at Kepler Colony. Surely there must be some way to repair the damage. By doing what? Elena interrupted, her voice cutting through the hall like a sharp blade. By apologizing for attempting to commit genocide against human civilians. By offering to pay money for the 40,000 Zephyrian lives that were lost because your empire decided to test whether humanity's warnings were real. Elena turned to face the entire assembly. Her voice grew stronger and more final with each word she spoke. You want to know humanity's position? Here it is. We are withdrawing from all galactic institutions effective immediately. The human defense, pact with other species, will be ended. All human peacekeeping forces will return to human space. Every mediation effort, every diplomatic mission, every humanitarian aid operation will be stopped. She paused to let the full meaning of her words sink in. Around the hall, aliens began to understand what this really meant. Without human mediators, their conflicts would have no one to solve them. Without human peacekeepers, their wars would grow until they consumed everything. Without human aid, their disasters would become catastrophes. Every human diplomat who has spent years learning your languages and cultures will come home, Elena continued. Every human teacher who has helped your children learn will return to human worlds. Every human doctor who has saved alien lives will tend only to human patients. A small alien that looked like a walking flower raised one of its petal arms. Ambassador, what about the trade agreements? The scientific cooperation programs? The cultural exchange initiatives? All ended, Elena said simply. Humanity is closing its borders. We will trade only with each other. We will share technology only with each other. We will cooperate only with each other. An alien that resembled a giant metal spider clicked its legs together in distress. But Ambassador, many of our economies depend on human technology and resources. Our medical systems use human innovations. Our transportation networks rely on human engineering. Dr. Green nodded sadly. We know. We have spent decades integrating our civilizations, sharing our knowledge and building connections between our peoples. Breaking those connections will hurt everyone, including us. But the galaxy has made its choice clear. Elena's voice became softer, but her words carried the weight of absolute finality. The galaxy chose war over wisdom. You rejected peace for pride. You decided that might makes right, and that the strong should prey upon the weak. Now you will live with the consequences of those choices. Supreme Speaker Yothkalin's 7 heads whispered to each other before speaking together. Ambassador, surely you understand that without human mediation, the galaxy will tear itself apart. Billions will die. Entire civilizations will be destroyed. Yes, Elena said quietly. We understand that completely. We tried to prevent it. We begged you to choose differently. We warned you what would happen if you continued down this path. You ignored our warnings, rejected our help, and attacked our people. General Stone stepped forward. The galaxy will learn to solve its own problems, or it will destroy itself trying. Either way, it will happen without humanity's help or interference. Elena picked up a small device from the table and activated it. The device projected an official document into the air where everyone could see it. The document was written in the formal language of galactic law and carried the official seals of the human government. This is formal notice of humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, the Interspecies Trade Union, the Mutual Defense Alliance, and every other galactic organization. Elena announced. Effective immediately, humanity considers itself no longer bound by any galactic law or treaty. She looked around the hall one last time. Humanity will endure, protected by our own strength while the galaxy burns around us. That is the price of ignoring our warnings. That is the cost of making us angry. As the 3 humans walked toward the exit, the remaining delegates sat in stunned silence. The reality of their situation was finally beginning to sink in. Without humanity's steady hand guiding galactic affairs, they were about to discover just how fragile their civilization really was. 1 year later, the galaxy was dying. Captain Sam Rivers stood on the observation deck of the massive space fortress that protected Earth. Through the thick glass windows, he could see his home planet spinning slowly in the darkness of space. Earth looked beautiful and peaceful. Blue oceans reflected sunlight like mirrors. White clouds moved across green continents. Cities sparkled like jewels in the night. There were no burn marks from enemy weapons. No refugee ships crowding the orbital stations. No signs of the terrible war that was destroying the rest of the galaxy. Sam was a tall man with black hair and brown eyes. He had been born on Earth, but had spent most of his life traveling between the stars as a diplomatic officer. Now he was the commander of humanity's home defense forces. His job was to make sure that the chaos consuming the galaxy never reached human space. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos walked up beside him carrying a data tablet full of reports from across the galaxy. She had short red hair and green eyes that showed both sadness and anger. For 15 years, she had worked to build friendships between humans and aliens. Now she spent her days reading about the destruction of everything she had helped create. Another request for help, Maria said, handing Sam the tablet. This one is from the Altarian Confederation. They are offering to give us 3 entire star systems in exchange for human intervention in their war with the Nexus Alliance. Sam shook his head without even looking at the tablet. Same answer as always, not our problem. Dr. Robert Chen joined them at the window. He was the space station's chief intelligence officer, responsible for keeping track of what was happening in the galaxy beyond human space. His job had become much more depressing over the past year. Every day brought news of new disasters, new wars, and new species facing extinction. The casualty reports keep getting worse, Robert said quietly. Conservative estimates put galactic deaths at over 2 billion people in the past year. 17 entire civilizations have been completely wiped out. The Corinthian Empire no longer exists. The hegemony of Keth has dissolved into chaos. The Nexus Alliance has split into 6 different factions that fight each other more than they fight their original enemies. Sam nodded sadly. The numbers were almost too big to understand. 2 billion people was more than the entire population of many human worlds. 17 civilizations meant thousands of years of art, science, and culture had been erased forever. "Sir," called out communications specialist Linda Torres from her station across the room, "we are receiving a priority transmission from what is left of the Galactic Council. It is marked as a formal surrender." Sam raised an eyebrow. In all his years of military service, he had never heard of an entire galaxy surrendering to anyone. "Surrender to whom?" "To us, sir," Linda answered, her voice showing her own surprise. "They are offering complete governmental authority over all galactic affairs in exchange for ending the conflicts." Sam walked over to the communications station and activated the main display screen. The familiar sight of the Galactic Council chamber appeared, but it looked like a tomb. The great hall that had once held hundreds of proud alien representatives now contained perhaps 20 survivors sitting in the ruins of what had been the galaxy's greatest achievement. Most of the seats were empty. Many species were too busy fighting for survival to send anyone to council meetings. Others had been destroyed completely and would never send representatives anywhere again. The few aliens who remained looked exhausted and defeated. Ambassador Krextal of the Zephyrian Empire appeared on screen. Sam remembered this alien from the reports of humanity's original warning a year ago. The crystal being had laughed at human offers of mediation. Now his crystalline form was cracked and dim. His voice carried the weight of absolute defeat. "Humans," Krextal said, struggling to speak clearly. "We understand now. We thought we knew what war meant. We thought we knew what strength looked like. We were children playing with forces beyond our understanding." The Nexus Alliance's last remaining speaker appeared beside him. Yoth Kalan had once possessed 7 snake heads that spoke in perfect harmony. Now only one head remained alive. The others had been lost in battles that had consumed her entire civilization. "The galaxy is dying," she said with her single remaining voice. "In 1 year we have destroyed 10,000 years of civilization. We have turned paradise worlds into graveyards. We have made children afraid to sleep because they dream of burning cities. Please, we beg you, take control of us. Force your peace upon us. We no longer have the wisdom to govern ourselves. Sam looked around at his crew. He could see his own mixed emotions reflected in their faces. Part of him felt satisfaction that the aliens who had rejected humanity's help were finally admitting their mistake. But a larger part felt only sadness for the incredible waste of life and potential. Finally, Sam activated the communication array and prepared to speak to the survivors of galactic civilization. Members of the former Galactic Council, he began, his voice carrying across space to reach the few aliens still alive to hear it. 1 year ago, humanity offered you a choice. You could accept our mediation and find peaceful solutions to your conflicts, or face the consequences of galactic war. You chose war. Sam paused to let the weight of that decision settle over them. On the screen, he could see aliens hanging their heads in shame and regret. We warned you not to make us angry. Not because we feared what we might do to you, but because we feared what you would do to yourselves once we were no longer there to stop you. The galaxy paid the price for ignoring that warning. Krextal's broken voice interrupted. Human Captain, we accept full responsibility for our failures. We offer complete surrender. Please just make the killing stop. Sam's expression softened, slightly. Despite everything that had happened, humans were not a cruel species. They took no pleasure in watching others suffer, even those who had brought suffering upon themselves. We will return to our role as mediators, Sam said slowly. But this time our authority will be absolute. There will be no more warnings, no more second chances, no more debates about whether human advice should be followed. The galaxy will have peace, even if we have to enforce it at gunpoint. The screen showed relief spreading across the faces of the surviving alien representatives. For the first time in a year, they had hope that the killing might actually stop. Human ships will be dispatched to every conflict zone, Sam continued. Any military force that fires weapons after our arrival will be destroyed completely. Any leader who refuses to negotiate will be removed from power. Any species that chooses war over peace will find itself facing the full might of human civilization. Maria stepped forward to add her voice to the announcement. Reconstruction efforts will begin immediately. Human engineers will rebuild your destroyed worlds. Human doctors will tend to your wounded. Human teachers will help your children learn to live in peace instead of war. Dr. Chen activated his computer to show images of human relief ships already, being prepared for departure. But understand this. Humanity will never again trust the galaxy to govern itself wisely. From this day forward, we will be watching. Always watching. Always ready to intervene if you start to repeat your mistakes. Sam looked directly into the camera that would carry his words to every surviving world in the galaxy. The galaxy chose to learn the hard way that humanity's greatest threat was never, we will destroy you. Our greatest threat was always, we will let you destroy yourselves. As the transmission ended and the work of rebuilding galactic civilization began, Sam reflected on the lesson that had cost 2 billion lives to learn. Sometimes the greatest mercy was not giving people the freedom to make their own choices. Sometimes the greatest kindness was taking that freedom away before they could use it to destroy everything they loved. The galaxy had finally learned why humanity's warnings should never be ignored. The price of that education would be remembered for thousands of years.